Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you are keeping safe and well. I am joined in today's information briefing by my friend, Minister Gilbert Ligudi. Let me first commence by updating you with today's statistics that the government has available in relation to hospital admissions and COVID-19 cases. In the last 24 hours, there have been a total of 38 attendances at accident and emergency at St. Bernard's Hospital. Of these, 6 presented with COVID symptoms, 4 in the day and 2 overnight. Only one of them was admitted to John Ward. The swab test has since proved negative, and the person has already been discharged from hospital. The latest data is as follows. Total number of swabs, 1,888. Results pending, 29. Results received, 1,859. Of the 132 confirmed cases that we have in our community, 12 are active and 120 have recovered. All 12 active cases are at home and all are well. So having heard the latest statistics, our figures are of course good, but this is in no way means that we can become complacent, and we must therefore continue to follow the rules. I must remind you that these statistics could change overnight or at any moment. The reason why these figures are low is precisely because as a community we have come together to follow the rules. In general, everyone is abiding by the lockdown regulations and staying home. Please continue to stay home for your own safety and that of others. And if we are out, we spread the virus, and we would put further pressure on the GHA. Please do not go out unless it is absolutely necessary to do so. And when doing so, please remember that it is important to observe and respect social distancing. A reminder that you are only permitted to go out in exceptional circumstances. If you have to work because you cannot work from home, to buy food and medicine, to exercise or to walk your dog. If you do have to go out to exercise, please keep it to a minimum. And remember that you are only permitted to go out with members of the same household as you. This is not a time to socialise and chat with others. And I know that this is difficult for us and it goes against our nature, but it is important. Our Royal Gibraltar Police, supported by Customs and GDP officers, continue to be out on patrol, keeping us safe. My report from the Commissioner of Police is that there is general compliance, and when people are out exercising, they are respecting social distancing. And where there are instances that the police have to intervene to enforce, there is respect and abidance. There have been a few arrests for criminal offences, and in addition to those criminal charges, these individuals have also been charged with breaches of the lockdown regulations. As Minister for Equality, I am mindful that people with disabilities, such as people on the autism spectrum, routine and exercise is important. For this reason, I have liaised with the Royal Gibraltar Police and the Autism Support Group. I would like to remind everyone of last year's initiative by the Ministry for Equality when we launched our Disability Information Card. This is a particularly useful and discreet way of communicating a disability, particularly for people with invisible disabilities. The Royal Gibraltar Police have already been briefed on how this system works. And I would like to remind anyone with a disability who may not yet have applied for a disability information card that the Ministry for Equality continues to operate and you may apply for one. I am also aware that the Autism Support Group have ordered some blue wristbands for their members to wear. I therefore ask everyone to be mindful of such families and be sensitive if you see them out. It is because they need to be out, but of course they still need to be mindful of all the regulations. Other than these exceptions, really, there is no need to be out. If you are over 70, the advice is that you should be hermetically sealed in Gibraltar for your protection. A lot of these measures are available thanks to arrangements that our supermarkets have made, and many of them with the support of the Office of Civil Contingencies and volunteers. We have made arrangements to deliver food packages for certain individuals over the age of 70 who would otherwise have absolutely no means to obtain this food or cook for themselves. But other than these individuals who have been identified by social services, arrangements have been made for everybody else to have food delivered to them by the supermarkets. The majority of supermarkets will deliver food and supplies to over 70s for free. These include Resource Daily, Eroski, and Saconian Speed. If you are under the age of 70, there is also a possibility for your food to be delivered for you by the delivery services, and such as Rock Hero, Hungry Monkey, and Vepo and Nom Noms. Some of these will have a charge depending on your age. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody working in the supermarkets, both at the tills and making arrangements to make this possible, as well as everybody making the deliveries, and that includes a lot of people who are volunteering. This essential structure and network enables us to keep Gibraltar safe. I'd also in particular like to thank Hungry Monkey, because they've enabled us to use their platform to coordinate our volunteers. During these difficult times, it's also important to look after our mental health. We already have established teams and established helplines throughout the Gibraltar Health Authority, whether these be the community mental health services, mental health practitioners at the PCC, or at Ocean Views. I must stress that they will continue to work as business as usual. In addition to these services, we have also set up a specific COVID psychological welfare support team because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and to provide additional support. This team comprises of all the counselling and welfare practitioners who are available throughout the public service in Gibraltar, and they work together as a team primarily, and the priority for them now is to train everybody who is a frontline worker to ensure that they are able to continue working, and they provide them with welfare resilience during this time. I would also like to update you on the specific domestic abuse strategy that we have and that we have escalated for this COVID-19 period. I am happy to report that the Royal Gibraltar Police tell me that for the moment there doesn't seem to be any significant spike of cases or anything out of the ordinary. Notwithstanding, all the stakeholders are working together in the event that this should happen. Today we are launching a new awareness campaign made up of a series of posters that we will be launching every couple of days. And I would particularly like to thank everybody who's been working solidly over the last few weeks, including weekends, to make the specific strategy possible. And in addition, everybody who has posed for these posters, and in true tradition by the Ministry of Equality, it's mainly my staff at my office, together with other people who form part of the strategic group. So thank you, everyone, for the work that you have done. Last week, in my press conference, I made a call out for the donation of iPads for children who may find themselves at home and need one, as well as for elderly people, either at home or at elderly residential services, who might benefit from one in order to continue to be in touch with their family and loved ones during this time of isolation. I am delighted to report that in the short space of a week, we have had a donation of 55 brand new iPads, mini iPads, and Samsung tablets. I'd like to thank the people who donated these, and these are Medicare, Gib Telecom, and an individual sponsor who donated too. These 2 iPads came with beautiful rainbows, and I'd like to thank your children for adding these rainbows to the iPads. The iPads have already started to be distributed to people who needed these. Last week, I made a call out for these iPads, and the generosity and response has been incredible. Last week, Minister Ligudi showed us the picture of a rainbow that had been placed at St. Joseph's School. I have seen many rainbows painted by children, whether it's on social media or on people's windows. Today, I would like to take an opportunity to have a further call out for rainbows, and I would invite all children who may wish to draw a rainbow for people who are in hospital or at elderly residential services to draw them and submit them to us at the Civil Contingencies Office, and we will take them to the hospital wards, to ERS, and to the new Nightingale facility. And on that note, I'd like to say that rainbows are a symbol of hope, and I leave you all with a positive thought that better days will come. And one day, hopefully not too distant future, we will find ourselves on the other side of that rainbow. That day will come, and it will come sooner if everybody abides by the lockdown regulations. So until then, stay home, keep safe, continue to wash your hands, and follow the official advice. I would like to take this opportunity to thank absolutely everyone who is playing a part to ensure that we are kept safe during these times. Now I'd like to pass you on to my friend, Minister Gilbert Ligudi.
Thank you, Samantha, and good afternoon, all of you who are joining us today in this daily briefing by the government on COVID-19. And today what I want to do is to give you an update on where we are on schools, on home learning programs, and on education generally. We continue to have 4 school facilities open: Notre Dame for lower primary children, St. Anne's for upper primary children, and Westside for secondary school children. We also have St. Martin's, which is opening. We are operating creche facilities for those children who are under school age, and all of these have been operating during what traditionally would have been the Easter school holidays. We have extended hours in the primary and secondary schools from 7:30 in the morning until 8:30 in the evening to cater for those working shifts. We continue to have around 160 children attending these facilities. This means, of course, that the vast majority of our children are at home. We realise that the stress and anxiety that the current situation can cause. We have, in fact, a helpline set up for children and for parents who are concerned about their children's mental health. The number to call if you need this service is 200 124 99. It is staffed from Monday to Friday between 8:30 in the morning and 4:30 in the afternoon. Any concerns about mental health issues can also be sent to us in the form of a form through the website education.gov.gi, and anyone sending that form will be contacted by officials from the Department of Education. Education is, of course, like almost everything else that we see around us, conducted in a very different way to what we have been used to. It is nevertheless important, for educational and for other reasons, that children are not idle, that children continue to develop key skills, and that children continue on their learning journey. That is why we have set up home learning platforms for both primary and secondary school children. And I want to take this opportunity, just as my colleague Samantha has mentioned iPads and some donations. We have had a very generous donation of 20 iPads by Turicum Bank to assist so that we can provide these iPads to any child that needs it in the home learning environment. The vast majority of children in the primary sector are engaging with the home learning platform. The focus is on developing key learning skills and supporting emotional well-being. This is naturally not the same as we have in classrooms. I would therefore like to reassure parents that no child is falling behind the curriculum if they are not able to complete the tasks which are being set. And what we ask is that the public have confidence in that when our schools resume, our dedicated team of professionals will ensure that our students are supported in making the expected progress. At secondary level, we also have an online platform that children can engage with, where they will be provided with a series of activities by their teachers. And there are a number of key principles that guide this home learning program. there should be a routine for children to follow. The routine should include exercise activities as well as a mental health and mindfulness element. There should be a balance over the week, with the time allocated to subjects reflecting the proportion of the usual weekly timetable. Where possible and helpful, work will be differentiated according to the needs and abilities of students. Activities should be set which are as engaging as possible. They should be able to be completed within the home environment, with resources you would expect to find within that environment. The pace of moving forward through the home learning programs is clearly not intended to replicate the pace at which teachers would have moved forward had the children been at school. It would be practically impossible to match that rate of progress. The aim is therefore to make good use of the time that we do have available and help the students to make progress so that when normalcy is resumed, our students are as prepared as possible to continue their learning in the school setting. We are in the final stages of setting up a subscription to GCSE Pod, which is an online platform that offers a series of learning and revision podcasts across 27 GCSE subjects. This is designed for remote learning, and we expect that it will be rolled out during the course of next week. Again, these podcasts are not intended to replace or to be a substitute for a classroom environment, but in times where that environment is not available, it will provide an additional resource for both teachers and students as we strive to make home learning as meaningful and productive as possible. The subscription we have for GCSE Pod will take us until next year, so the platform will be available to children even after schools reopen. We are grateful to the Kusuma Trust for having offered to fund this subscription. When schools closed, one of the matters that most concerned students was what would happen with their GCSEs and their A-levels. Would they be delayed, or how would they be assessed? We then had confirmation that the exams were cancelled, and we now know that there is going to be a process for grades to be awarded. Even though students will not be taking their exams this year, it is nevertheless important that we prepare them for their next stage in their education. We are therefore rolling out bespoke programs for Year 11 and Year 13 students. For Year 11s, this will include some insight into the A-level courses available and guidance on skills development and practice. For the Year 13s, it will focus on independent learning skills and academic research and referencing tools for those planning to progress onto university for tertiary education. It will also provide job seeker guidance for those wishing to go into employment. These additional programs will be rolled out as from Monday the 20th of April for the Year 13s and Monday the 27th of April for the Year 11s. With regard to the assessment process for GCSE, AS and A-levels, our website at education.gov.gi contains all the information that Ofqual has issued for students and parents to date. This website will be updated regularly, with any further information provided by Ofqual will also be published on the website. We would ask students to check the website if they have any queries about the process and what to expect. It is very important to note that professionals are not allowed to engage with parents and students on any aspect of the process specific to individuals, as Ofqual have issued strict instructions to this effect. We therefore ask students and parents to refrain from contacting the schools to discuss centre assessment grades, as our professionals are unable to engage with them on this matter. We appreciate that these are very uncertain times for students and parents, and an unprecedented situation for our professionals too. Everyone involved in this process is aware of how important these qualifications are to the young people completing them, and will use their professional experience to make a fair and objective judgment of the grade they believe a student would have achieved had they sat their exams this year. I can reassure you that the process will be robust and rigorous, with a team of experienced professionals working with all pertinent staff within each of the 3 secondary institutions to ensure that the process is fair and objective. Ofqual have announced this week that the results for GCSEs and A-levels will be given on the dates that they were originally planned to be handed out. These are 13th of August for A-levels and 20th of August for GCSEs. students will also be asking themselves about the process for applying for scholarships. That will be no different this year to what it had been in other years. An advert will soon be published inviting applications for government scholarships as from September. Application forms will be available online at the education.gov.gi website. There is, of course, uncertainty as to what the state of play will be in the UK in September and whether universities will reopen then. We do not know exactly what will happen, but from the Department of Education's point of view, we need to plan and we need to be prepared for whatever the position might be. We certainly do not want to be caught by surprise, and that is why we will be inviting applications for scholarships. At the same time, we also have to be prepared for those children entering nursery and reception years who need to be enrolled in our schools. An advert asking parents to enroll children of school age has already been appeared in the local press. We also have those application forms available on the education website, and I would urge parents who have not yet done so to fill in and submit those forms. Again, we need to be prepared, and we need to know which children will be coming to government schools. Which schools will actually be open in September? Well, certainly nothing would make me happier than to have seen the back of COVID-19 and for normality to be restored. The reality is that we cannot know for sure, but we have to plan for it, whether it happens before the summer break or in September or at some other time. What is, however, clear is that we have to get this right, and if that means that we have to be cautious and patient, then so be it. Whatever happens, it is unlikely that we will go back to normal from an educational perspective overnight. It will be a gradual process. We may, for example, have a return to school by year groups or by sector. We may also, at the beginning, have different start and finishing times for different years, similar to the arrangements we made before the schools were closed. This will avoid large gatherings at school entrances. Whenever that may happen, we want our children to be as best prepared as possible and to have the most of the time that they're now spending at home. You can rest assured that government will make an announcement on the process for the return to school as soon as it takes that decision. And as we have said on other matters, look out for official announcements and do not rely on speculation in social media platforms. And in the meantime, we have to realize and we have to be aware that the battle against the virus is not yet won. It is certainly a huge relief to all of us that the number of confirmed cases, as set out by Samantha earlier, is not going up in large numbers. And conversely, the number of active cases is now down to only 12. As I said in the daily briefing last Monday, that is down, and again as Samantha has mentioned today, that is down to the efforts which you are all making. And all of us have seen studies, mathematical models, projections, hypotheses, and assumptions made by experts all over the world. Most of these are characterized by two things: a lack of evidence or sufficient evidence, and uncertainty. Uncertainty as to how precisely the virus will behave. Uncertainty on whether there will be a vaccine available. Uncertainty over the extent or the effect of antibodies or immunity that anyone who may have caught the virus may have. There is also uncertainty about a possible surge or other waves of the virus if we unlock too early. We are already seeing these second waves happening in other countries such as Singapore and Japan. And amid all these uncertainties, there are also two things that are absolutely certain and on which all experts agree. Firstly, washing your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds is absolutely vital, so keep washing your hands. Secondly, the best barrier to the virus is your front door. That is why staying at home is the best medicine against the virus. That is what prevents or minimizes the spread of infection and allows us to continue to have the sort of numbers that we have seen today. Of course, we are not going to be confined indefinitely. The time will come when the circumstances are right to start to ease the restrictions. We are not there yet. As I said before, we need to be cautious and we need to be patient. But above all, we need to continue with our collective effort to protect our community and to save lives. And let us not forget, we're in this together. We will fight this together, and we will pull through together. Thank you. We will now take questions from the media.
Hello. The first question is from YGTV for Minister Ligudi. We have heard that some university students have returned to Gibraltar and have had to leave part-time or freelance work in the UK, which help them pay for rent or other bills. Is the government considering extra financial assistance for students who may have long-term commitments in the UK, like rental contracts for flats they cannot use?
I think the first thing to say is that rental agreements are private matters between the students and the landlords. We're very much aware that this is a big issue. I know that the National Union of Students is making representation to the universities, and the universities themselves are voicing concerns about this issue. I'm also aware that some universities are waiving the rents in respect of their own halls of residence, but ultimately it is a private contractual matters. Our students will not be out of pocket. They have already received the third tranche of the maintenance grant for this year, even though, as the question says, most of the students, or practically all of the students, are in Gibraltar. The maintenance grant, which is around £2,000 for the last term, has already been received by all those students, and therefore they will have that money available to pay expenses that they have in the UK. The maintenance grant is, of course, intended to meet expenses whilst in the UK, not whilst in Gibraltar. But we do recognise that there will be ongoing commitments that they would have had in any event, and that grant is obviously available and has already been paid to the students to meet those expenses.
The next question is from the Chronicle for Minister Ligudi. We have spoken to both teachers and parents who are concerned that the arrangements in place do not go far enough to address the needs of children whose education and progress depends on close support from teachers. How concerned are you about this, and what will you do to bridge any education gaps that may be emerging between students of different aptitudes, particularly those on GCSE and A-level courses?
To a very large extent, I addressed those issues in the statement that I made before. Of course, we're aware of concerns. We're not in a normal situation by any means. The situation is affecting us in ways that we could never, ever have imagined. It is simply impossible to replicate the classroom environment when most of our children are at home. It simply cannot be done. We are therefore doing the best that can possibly be done. It's important to recognise that our curriculum is aligned with the UK, and therefore we are not in a position where the UK is following a curriculum with schools open, and we are not, and therefore our children are being left behind. Our children are in exactly the same position as they are in the UK. So what has happened in the UK with regards to exams has also affected our children, with exams being cancelled. The central assessment grades and the results for A-levels and GCSEs, which is happening to UK students, will also be happening to Gibraltar students. In Gibraltar, we have put together these online platforms. We have enormous support by the different teams of teachers. Remember that because we have only a small number of facilities open in Gibraltar, we have flexibility with teachers, and therefore some teachers are in the facilities, others are at home, others are working on a rota system and in teams, preparing the home learning programs that are for children. So we are getting the children as best prepared as possible. That is not to say that we are following the curriculum as we would like to follow the curriculum, but children will not be left behind. And remember that in my earlier statement I gave a reassurance to parents that our dedicated team of professionals will be there to support our children when we do get back to normal, hopefully very soon.
The next question is again from the Chronicle for Minister Ligudi. Is there a possibility that the school term might be extended into the summer months in order to make up for lost time? Is this being considered? What are the pros and cons?
It is something that we have discussed briefly amongst by myself and my senior staff at the Department of Education. My own view is that that is unlikely to happen. Whatever may happen will be, we will continue with the term as normal, and then we will break up for the summer. Again, it's important to emphasise that we're aligned to the UK. So if the UK took the view that schools should reopen and there should be some form of arrangement over the summer, then that is something that we would have to consider. But at the moment, the arrangements are that the summer term will be the normal summer term. And if we're back to normal and people can enjoy their summer holidays, then so be it. Otherwise, we will, even throughout the summer, we will continue to support our children.
The next question is from YGTV for Minister Sacramento. What arrangements are being considered to repatriate the large group of Gibraltar residents currently stranded in Morocco?
Well, as you know, Morocco is in lockdown, and back on the 13th of March, ferries between Gibraltar and Morocco were cancelled. Now, since that date, we've been in active communication with residents from Gibraltar who have found themselves in Morocco in order to make arrangements to bring them over. The Office of Civil Contingencies has been working very closely with the convent, as well as with the British Embassy in Rabat, and also with the representative of the Gibraltar Moroccan Community Association. So the important thing is that we know the names of everybody who is in Morocco, and we're actively working together to be able to make arrangements for them to return to Gibraltar.
The next question is from the Olive Press for Minister Liqoudi. What has been the immediate impact on employment from the COVID-19 lockdown, and how long can you maintain the beat measures to ensure all Gibraltar employees continue to receive their monthly wage? Secondly, after mentions of economic meltdown, do you foresee unemployment rising again and wages dropping? What measures will you put in place to ensure this doesn't happen on the Rock?
Well, certainly we haven't spoken of economic meltdown. There is certainly an economic effect to this crisis. There is the practical, there is the medical side, and there is obviously the economic side, which is badly affected as well. We have put in a range of measures which, as you've described, the BEAT program to protect the employees. We have also made it clear that unemployment termination forms will not be accepted after the 15th of March. All of these applications are in the process of being processed. It is, I think, likely that there is going to be an effect on employment, but let's remember that the size of our economy that we have and the number of jobs that we have in our economy by far exceeds the number of Gibraltarian or Gibraltar residents that there are in our economy. And therefore, those are jobs that we will want to protect, we will want to see available going forward. Even if there are a number of jobs which are lost, then it should not necessarily affect the Gibraltarian employment. Remember, in the interview a few days ago by Minister Bossano, he gave the example of the big turnover of jobs that are available in the economy, and that to a large extent is because of the number of frontier workers. So that we have this unique environment in our job situation whereby we have sufficient numbers of Gibraltarians and Gibraltar residents who are able to take up all the jobs, however badly we are affected. So we are very confident that our nationals and our residents will not be affected badly by unemployment.
A question from GBC. How wide will the new sampling be? The first random one was from the Electoral Register. This one aims to determine how prevalent the virus is among people out there. Will it include supermarket employees, some of whom may not be local, and will it include the media?
Well, when it comes to random sampling tests, we are guided by the advice of the Director of Public Health. As you know, we've already undertaken an exercise, a random exercise, where we had 400 swabs. We are going to undertake a different random sampling exercise now, and that will be primarily targeted at people who are frontline workers, so that we can see how prevalent the instance of the virus can be among them. So for the moment, the advice that we have is that the people who will be included in the random sampling will be people who work in healthcare, the Royal Gibraltar Police, people particularly who are working at elderly residential services. So that is the target for this random sampling.
A question from the Panorama. What needs to be put in place to get people back to work and revive and rebuild our economy?
A lot of the work that we have done is precisely aimed at that. We have the two task forces which are in place. One is to get everything going again and to restart and to have a sense of normalcy once again. once we are able to do so. And secondly, the one looking to the future, towards the economic recovery. So we have Task Force Future, which has been set up by the Chief Minister and which we're working on actively already. My colleagues Albert Isola, Vijay Danyarani and myself have already met virtually and discuss the way forward. We have also written to the various sectors within the areas of responsibility that we have and are expecting feedback. What we are asking for is initiatives, views as to how we take this forward. All that we will pull together in our own view, and the Task Force Future will then report to Cabinet. The whole purpose is that we need to revitalise the economy. We need to take advantage of opportunities that might be available. And the sooner we do that, and the sooner we're ready for whenever we can take advantage of those things, the better position we will be to have this economic recovery, which we all expect will happen.
And if I can add to that, and I've been tasked with leading the Task Force Restore and Recover, and that essentially will be looking at our public services and to see how we can make them operate more efficiently and more effectively going forward. I have to say that if there is one thing that we can say about this period is how everybody has stepped up in the public sector and has worked extremely quickly to find different ways of working. And those are the kind of models that we want to see implemented going forward so that we have a more modernised public sector.
The Panorama also asks, what exactly do you read into the very gradual spread of cases in Gibraltar? Does any of the present data indicate we could be in for a surge in the next few weeks?
The data is continuously analysed. When our data is looked at primarily by the Director of Public Health and the statistics team that he has, what will drive our data, which makes us somewhat different to other places, is the density that we have. At the moment, as you know, if you're monitoring the daily statistics, we can see that our statistics, our positive cases are going down. We cannot at this stage predict whether there's going to be a surge or not, and it's something that we have to review on a daily basis. As you know, if someone manifests with symptoms, they are swabbed, and because we are now swabbing in Gibraltar, our test results come back much quicker. So we have a quicker turnaround of results, and therefore we can analyse statistics quicker. Now, when we have the random testing, that you know, our second stage of random testing that we're going to have, and we're aiming to have about 450, we'll be able then to discern statistics from that. Once we look at the two exercises, then we'll wait for the advice and the guidance of the Director of Public Health.
A question from the Olive Press. A recent press release from the Disability Society and the Gibraltar Hearing Issues and Tinnitus Association has asked for sign language or subtitles for government press conferences. As the Minister for Equality, you will be aware of the Disability Act 2017, Freedom of Expression and Opinion, and the Access to Information, 17(1)(b). That guarantees this right. What will the government be doing to guarantee these facilities to our citizens?
As the person who drove the Disability Act in Gibraltar, because of course what we want to do is be as inclusive to all our citizens in Gibraltar with disabilities. We want to make sure that nobody is left out. We have been working very hard with GBC as one of the broadcasters to see whether they were able to provide us with subtitles in the broadcasts. I think that because there are issues with technology at the moment, that's not possible. But we have been trying, because then the government broadcasts these through our Facebook page on our social media platform. We've been working through an app to see if we can have automated subtitles for the benefit of people who are deaf and hard of hearing. Sometimes if you watch different programs on an iPad, for example, the iPad has a function that enables subtitles to come up automatically. In addition to that, what we've done, because what we are required to do under the legislation is to, as far as possible, have reasonable adaptations to be inclusive of people with disabilities. You will have noticed that as soon as our press conferences are over, we distribute the text of the press conference, and that way we ensure that the message that we are putting across is delivered to people who may be deaf and hard of hearing. We, in order to enable the subtitles to be activated, we are putting the broadcasts on YouTube, and YouTube then gives you the automatic closed captions that the iPad enables you to. And if I can add to that, we at the Ministry for Equality have a very close relationship with Gita, and we're always trying to make sure that we are as inclusive as possible of people who are deaf and hard of hearing, in the same way that we are of everybody with different disabilities. And throughout the whole exercise that we've been undertaking in the COVID-19 task force, we have been liaising very closely with Gita to make sure that no one who is deaf or hard of hearing is left out. For example, in our exercise where we are calling out people over the age of 70, we have a social worker, a specific social worker who is dedicated to reaching out and making contact with deaf people who are over 70 through Gita and with the assistance of Gita to make sure that they receive our messages and they receive food, and we can be satisfied that they have all the support that they have during this time of isolation.
The last question is from GBC for Minister Likudi. How many cases of COVID have there been among school staff and students? Are there any plans to further scale back the number of staff, given the fact attendance is so low? If so, would this be based on age, vulnerability, volunteering, or what other factors?
I don't have the specific numbers broken down in terms of staff working in education generally. We have had a number of reports where teachers have reported symptoms, and one or two I know have been confirmed positive, and all of those have been asked to stay at home, whether it's positive or simply symptomatic. In terms of the numbers, we have, as you say, not too many students in the schools, not too many children, about 160 in total, but the number of teachers we have is commensurate with that. Teachers are not just going to school. We have a rotation system. Remember, we have the extended hours from 7:30 in the morning until 8:30 in the evening. Teachers are now working on 3 shifts. There's a morning shift, the early afternoon shift, and the early evening shift. There are even within the shifts, there are teams, as well as those teachers that are working on the home learning programs. So all the teachers are being actively engaged, and we have sufficient number of teachers for all the students. The other day I was in St. Anne's. We had about 50 students, and we had 16 teaching professionals there, which seems to be a good proportion to have. And those are the sort of numbers that we're seeing. We're certainly satisfied with the numbers of teachers we have in our facilities, and what all the teachers are doing and all the support staff are doing to support all the programs that we have in place for the nearly 6,000 or the around 6,000 children that we have to cater for.
That's it. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. And as ever, keep home, keep well, keep safe, and please remember to keep washing your hands. Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend.